Hello, and welcome to Sadie's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be finishing off the maple syrup order. Sadly, with all the chaos that's going around, all of it couldn't be delivered to them, but I will be able to get some of it to them now, after all this time. Sadly, extra is for the banana bread, we don't have buttermilk because of supply chains and stuff. It's not a sought after item, so I can't find any at the grocery store, so I'm going to have to use sour cream. Works the same way, same amount, just with sour cream. You can use it with yogurt too. I just like buttermilk because it makes it a more moist product. So, let's get into it. Now what's left for this order is 1 banana bread, 1 dozen apple cages, and 1 dozen lemon circles, and 2 rye bread that did need to be changed to brown bread because I can't get rye flour at the moment. Today I'm going to be making the banana bread and the lemon circles. The banana bread lasts a long time and will stay fresh for a long time, so I'm making it a day in advance, sorry. And the lemon circles need to cool down to be perfect and get the right flavor out of them. And then the other 2 want to be as fresh as possible. So, tomorrow morning, I'll wake up early, bake the bread and the cages just before they show up, and then we'll have them take what they need. I'm also gonna give them an extra white bread and babka because with the order being so late getting to them, I feel a bit bad and they deserve to get a bit more. So let's get started on the banana bread. First we're gonna add in our flour and baking soda together. Now for the baking soda. Remember, when you're using baking soda, you have to have an acid. And again, because I can't get buttermilk at the moment, I'm going to use sour cream. Works the same way, just doesn't get as moist as a product, but it works just the same. And it's not that much less moist, it's just not as nice as I prefer for my recipes. So, now that those 2 are together, we're going to mix those up, aerate them as well. Set this off to the side, and then get started on the banana mixture. Now starting onto our banana mixture, 300 gram banana. I always use frozen bananas that are super ripe. They're always the best. Now we add in our brown sugar. And then mix them together till they're nice and smooth. Next we'll add in our sour cream or buttermilk if you have buttermilk. Mix this up, then add our eggs, weigh out our oil, then we'll add everything together. We can start our oven now because we're almost done. Remember, once you mix the sodium with the acid, which in this case is the bananas and the sour cream, it's going to start going and you have to get it in the oven right away. So add in our eggs. Make sure that you add in your eggs after you've mixed in the acid. You don't want the eggs to curdle for any reason. Perfect. We'll mix this off to the side and we'll do our oil as well. Remember to get a plate of oil so that you can put a crack down the middle so that it breaks nicely and looks extra good. Okay, so there's that, and then our plate with the oil on it that we're going to use to make the crack. Okay, and we'll start mixing this and come back later. Okay, so we're all ready. Our oven's just about done, but it'll be perfect amount of time for me to mix, put it in here, put the oil in, do all that stuff, and then put it in. It'll be done just at the same time. Waste no heat. The reason why I'm doing the banana bread first versus the lemon circles is this bakes for an hour and it allows me to do a whole bunch of prep. I'm not going to be baking the apple cages today, But I can roll them out, cut them into their squares, have that in the fridge, ready to go for tomorrow. Then I can have the base ready and the cream cheese ready. Bake the bottoms with the banana bread because the banana bread will be strong enough by then, because that will be about half an hour through, and it only takes about 15 minutes to bake the bottom. It just makes it a lot easier and I don't waste any time. So remember, when you're making this, put a third in at a time. Slowly mix. When you're almost fully mixed, add the next third. Okay, and then the last third. Remember, because you're not using buttermilk, it's going to be a lot drier, less of a liquid, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. Just remember, it will look slightly different if you use the buttermilk. Now, let's get in our oil. This is perfect time to make sure that there's no pockets of no pockets of flour anywhere that isn't mixed in. Go slow with the oil, make sure all the oil's mixed in, and the flour should be mixed in after that. There we are. It's all done. We can use this, scrape the sides. Again, just making sure all of it's in, and then we can use this to scrape in to our pan. Because it's only one loaf, I can just go directly in. Remember, if you're doing multiple loaves, weigh it out to make sure each one is the right size. You'd hate to make 10 loaves of banana bread, and then on that 10th one, because you put too much in the rest, you have like half a loaf. That'd be awful. So just make sure you get it all, and treat every customer the same. There we go. Just like I was do all the other times. Use this to oil it up and draw a line in between. Make sure you can see the line. That's how you know that it's going to work perfectly. Go a few times if you have to. Okay? We'll clean up, put this in the oven, and we'll start prepping all our other ingredients for today. Because the banana bread needs to be in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes before you can open the oven, or it could collapse on you, I'm going to prep the squares of the puff pastry today real quick. Then I'm going to go move on to the lemon circles. After that 25-30 minutes, you can put in the lemon circle bottoms and have no effect on your banana bread. But since I have to wait anyways, I might as well start prepping some of my other jobs to do. Be very careful with these layers. Don't use too much flour because you'll make it crusty, but make sure you're using enough flour so that it doesn't stick or rip any of your layers. Half for the top, half for the bottom. Make it easy on ourselves. Put this off to the side for now. Roll this out. We need to make this to be about 12, so that means 3 by 4. So lengthwise will be the 4, and this wise, widthwise will be 3. If you're struggling because of it bouncing back, just give it 2 seconds, let it relax, and then start rolling again. Remember, you will roll these out one last time per piece if you have to. Sometimes you don't need to, but if you're trying to go quick and just prep, don't worry too much about getting it exactly right. So, like 3. You can see that these are going to be smaller than these, but that means we can use it for a top piece. So, cut this in half first. Cut this in half. Cut this in half. And then these smaller pieces can be used for tops, and these larger pieces can be used for bottoms. So, stack these up from off to the side. Start working on the next piece. After we're done cutting these all out, we're going to flour them just a tad bit so they don't stick together. Then we're going to put them on a tray or a plate, put them in the fridge for tomorrow. Make sure you cover them. You don't want these drying out. There's no sense cutting the top yet, because if you cut the top now, it could stick back together and rip and mess with the layers. So you might as well just wait to do the cutting for your design at the very end when you are gonna start baking. Cut out your 3 and your 4. Now remember, doesn't need to be a perfect square because you will stretch this out, make it into your shape you need. Try to go for a square because it will look nicer in the end and make it easier on you. Like this isn't a square, but if I stretch like this, all of a sudden it's a square again. So don't worry too much if you're a bit wonky with your cuts. Like this one's a really wonky one, but if I play around with it a bit, all of a sudden it's a lot more square. So let's put this on a tray, put it in the fridge. Now it does look like I'm just playing around, just willy-nilly putting them down, but you want to make sure that they're not touching everything directly. So when I place this like this, there's a little bit of air pocket here, a little bit air pocket all over it, making there less contact in this kind of shape than if I just stack them on top of each other. I also put a bit of flour, just a tiny bit, so they don't stick. We'll just cover this up and put this in the fridge. I just wanted to show you that it's not the best thing to just stack them up. Sometimes if you just stack them up, you just make a one piece because they stick together so tightly that you'd wreck all of your layers if you tried to separate them. And so you just made a very thick piece that's got a lot of layers. Okay, now for the lemon circles. We'll melt this butter first. Now to make the base. Get your graham crackers in. And your sugar. Now that you got that in, just quickly mix it before you put in the butter. And then add in your butter. Make sure you get all of it in there. You're going to need all the liquid. And then just mix it together. Make sure it's nice and evenly mixed. No dry spots. If you have dry spots, your base will collapse and turn to dust. So you're going to need to make sure that you mix it perfectly. Also remember, based upon what graham cracker you use, will determine how much butter or liquid you need. With the No Frills brand, which I prefer for this recipe because it has not a harsher taste, but it's not as sweet. And with that not as sweet taste, it goes really well with the lemon and the fat from the cream cheese. And that's what makes this one perfect for this. But if you use a different brand that's sweeter, it might have less liquid content in it. causing it to collapse on the outside. So make sure that you know how much you need for your specific graham crackers that you use. Sooner or later I'll get a specific device, like not a device but a scoop that will scoop out the correct amount in each one, so I don't have to do this. But in the meantime, what I can do is just weigh it out. It ends up being about 7, just under 8 grams per spot. So I should get to 16 for every 2. Now that it's packed down, I'm going to put it in the oven. The banana bread's been in there long enough so that it won't be affected whatsoever. So let's save a step. Okay, so let's get our cream cheese mixture good to go. Cream cheese and sugar first. Room temperature cream cheese works the best. If you're using cold cream cheese, blend it by itself so that it becomes warmer and more pliable. Also, we'll add in our salt. Now it doesn't really matter what you put in next. You can put everything in except for the lemon, and then at the end put the lemon. That's all you really need to do. The lemon could curdle the cream or the egg, so just make sure that you're careful when you're putting in the lemon. Once everything's mixed in, it won't ever curdle, but you want to be safe for the beginning, so you'll put everything in and then the lemon juice. So, a little bit of vanilla. Cream. And an egg. Put your flour and lemon juice in now. Finish mixing up. Then scrape everything down and mix one last time. So, silly me again, I forgot to get spray. So just using oil the pan a bit. I did have to wait for this to cool down, and now that I've waited, my banana bread's out. So yeah, if you forget, you can just use oil, but you do have to wait for this to cool down. Spray is way easier and way better. Just make sure you're using good spray that isn't toxic. Then just scoop. Scoop. I've also turned on my oven. So it's a semi-good thing that I had to wait for this to cool down. So I didn't put this in a hotter oven. Make sure when you're mixing this cream cheese that you're constantly scraping away so that you aren't losing any big chunks of cream cheese in any individual one. And remember, be very careful not to overfill the first ones, because then these ones will be empty. I've got it down easily now, and we'll just throw this in the oven. This is how our banana bread turned out. Just gonna scrape around it. You want to make sure you get this banana bread out fairly quickly after pulling it out of the oven, or it will, it's very hot and all the liquid's still in it and will seep to the bottom once it condenses and make your whole bottom very wet. So you want to put this off to the side and let it cool down naturally. Okay, so all that's left is the pipe. And then take pictures for today. Tomorrow I'll be doing the apple cages and the bread. It's the next day now, and we're going to do our apple cages first. Let's get our brown sugar mixture done right away. Then we'll start peeling, coring our apples, and cutting them in half. Remember, for the cinnamon and brown sugar mixture, you do the cinnamon to taste, which is a bit hard because you don't really want to just taste the brown sugar, but this will come with experience. The other thing is, you want to know how much cinnamon you like versus how much I like. So I like to put quite a bit in there, but you might not like as much. So test it out for yourself. Make different batches. So like when you make a dozen for your first batch ever, try a little bit of cinnamon for one of them, try a bit more in the next, and you can test 12 different cinnamon levels in one batch if you really want. Got rid of all the clumps. Then we're just going to peel, core in half, put them in here. I'll come back when that's done. There we are. Now, once these apples go in, I'm going to start doing my breads so that they can proof. While they're proofing, I'll be able to finish off these apple cages. Then, once those apple cages are done, they should be done proofing. I can then set them up to go into the oven, have that all finished, just in time for the sitter's crew to come up and pick it up. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way, instead of going breads first or anything like that, is this way I will make sure that the room is hot and the proofing goes slightly faster. So instead of proofing every hour, it might take half an hour, it could take 45 minutes. So I'll speed up the process just slightly. And that's all I really need for now. So I'm just going to put this in and move on to our breads. I've set up my breads. I have my whole wheat here and my white here. I'm going to have this go on a machine while I do the white by hand because it's only one loaf versus 2 loaves. I want this to be done right around the same exact time because they bake basically the exact same amount of time and at the same temperature. This way I can get these two out of the way at the same time versus doing this then that. That's too much wasting time. So I'm gonna pour this into here, have it start, then pour our salt water in, and same thing here. I'm gonna put our yeast into here, then I'll add in the salt here. So remember, with the machine, you can go slow, let it go till it's all formed, then we add this. Now that these are done, just gonna let these sit off to the side and finish up our apple cages. Here's how the apples turned out, looking good. Still firm, which is perfect, because once they bake again, they'll soften up just to the perfect amount. So let's start rolling out our puff pastry. Let's start rolling them out. I'm gonna do the bottoms first. Put them on our trays. Make sure our trays are nice and cool and waiting in the fridge so that the puff pastry is as cold as possible for as long as possible before we bake. Versus if I did the tops first, tops aren't going to be in position and just is going to slow me down. This way I can get the bottoms nice quickly, put them in the fridge, no issue there, and then do the tops, take those out of the fridge, and then put it all together. For cages like this, it's very nice to have a bowl like this, so you can just dip it, and you get just the right amount of flour that way. Not too much, not too little. Let's get started on the top. All the other bottoms are now in the fridge, cooling down. I can set up all this, quickly bake. When that's all ready and goody, the breads, because it's now hot in this room, well, it should be proofed. I'll punch them down, put them in their pans. When these come out of the oven, those breads should be ready to go into the oven, and I'll be done for today. Now, I've decided I'm going to have multiple different cages. So I'm going to have apple cages, apricot cages, strawberry cages, pear cages, strawberry, chocolate, so many different types that I'm going to have to start making different designs so that they don't all just look the same. So obviously I'm going to keep this one, this design, for my apple cages, but for everything else I'm gonna have to slowly start changing so that you can tell the difference between the two. And certain shapes work better for different fruits. Like an apple is big, right? So this shape works real nice with it, but for something that's smaller like a blueberry cage, it's gonna be a little flat. So I'll have to make a different design to compensate for that. But for now, we're just gonna go with our regular style. You see that? Drop knife? Don't grab for it. Just get out of the way so that you don't hurt anything. Just make sure you wash it and continue on. So now let's put them together. There is one thing that I've been thinking about adding to this, which is a caramel of some sort. Whether I put a caramel underneath the apples or drizzle it over top, I still am gonna figure out. But we'll test that next time I make apple cages. I don't want to ruin it just in case for the customers, but when I do a test run, which should be fairly soon, of a whole bunch of different apples, or not apples, but cages in general, I'm gonna see if a caramel underneath the apples is even better, which I'm hoping works, because what I'm finding with these apple cages is right around here it's just all dough, which isn't a bad thing, but it's only dough and you don't get any of the sweetness from the apple. And I'm trying to figure a way to make sure that every bite is as enjoyable as possible. So let's just quickly get these in and go back to our breads. Make sure you're just gluing. And this is how you really do it for a business. Is, oh, my oven's now preheated to 400. So this is how you really do it for a business, where you do one step at a time, all at once, so that it's as quick and efficient as possible. You don't want to be brushing one, finishing one, and then continuing on. This way, you're doing the same motion, and you'll probably go 5-10 minutes faster. And that over a whole day could be half an hour faster, which is your lunch break. So you can get everything done in an 8-hour period that you would normally in a 7.5-hour period. So now that that's on, just cover them up. And just egg wash the top for looks. So again, like I was saying, I'm going to be adding caramel to this on a test day. I'm thinking we do 3 tests, one with caramel just on top, one with caramel just underneath the apple, and then one with both. We'll figure out which one I like the most. And then I'll obviously have a control to make sure that, yeah, I might find what's the best out of those 3, but if the original is already better, then there's no reason to switch. But my guess is it's going to be the drizzle on top, and the caramel underneath is just going to be an overkill. So I'm going to guess just the drizzle and not both. That's going to be done when I do the pear, because the pear goes really well with caramel as well. So I'm thinking about adding caramel to the apple and a pear cage while making a strawberry and apricot with mascarpone cheese. That sounds good to me. Banana and chocolate, easy combo. Or maybe banana and hazelnut spread, so a Nutella or Kraft, whatever one I decide to use. And then finally I'm going to try doing a raspberry and blueberry compote cage. And I think that might be all the cages for now, but I think those are going to be real nice. And I made a bunch of puff pastries so that I can test a whole bunch of them. And that's going to be a fun day when we finally get to it. Now make sure you don't over egg wash them. Like I have some left, but I'm not going to use it because all I'd be doing is putting a scrambled egg on top. So let's get this in the oven. Okay, so these have doubled in size. Just going to punch them down, form them into their dough, and then let them proof one last time to be put into the oven. So let's take this out. Now, just make it a bit longer. I've been having a bit of troubles with my bread sticking to the pan, so I'm going to oil the pan a bit so that it's not such a big issue. Just with a little bit of olive oil. There we are, looking good on top. Throw this in here, squish it down a bit, just like so. Do the same with the brown bread. Now I just gotta make sure that to weigh it off, cut it in half. 1,150. Remember to always weigh it because sometimes your flour's a bit dry, or a bit moist, depending on how fresh it is. The fresher it is, the more liquid's in it. And that could change how much water you need. So just keep that in mind so that you're not putting always 1,000 grams and then one loaf be 1,000 and one loaf be 1,100. that'd be a bit annoying. Especially since if you use really old flour, it could be 100-gram difference over multiple loaves. So just keep that in mind. So there's one. Roll it out a bit more. There we are. Whoa. Put this in here. Press it down. Then we're going to press down each one so that it gets fully in each pan. Be careful with the ones you just put in because you just worked the gluten, so it's going to want to bounce back. So just press and then hold and then slowly release. Now that these are ready to go, I'm going to make this a damp cloth, cover them, and let them proof for a bit. Okay, so these have now proofed. Oh. Looking good. This one's a little lower, but that will rise in the oven. Looking good. Now all that's left is to brush water. Again, I still haven't found my spray, but I'll have to get a new one since I still can't find it. But for now, I'll just use a brush. Spray it with water. I have another one of these pans in the oven already with water in it to steam these until I get an oven that already steams. So let's put these in. Here's how the apple cages turned out. Looking good. The shapes look a lot better than before, so I'm getting better as I progress. And yeah, we'll try out that caramel next time. Hopefully it's better. If not, we'll stick with this. A little bit of ice and sugar and that will be that. So, once those breads come out, I'll lay everything out that's going to the crew. Here are the breads. The white bread came out a bit wonky, but that's okay. Oh. Sounds hollow. Perfect. So the rest should be done. Now, this is just because I didn't knead it properly, which could easily be fixed by just using the machine, which I will definitely be using next time. I just wanted to make it quick. This isn't extra for them, so it's not a huge deal that this didn't turn out well. It's just a little bit sad. So, let's pull out everything that's going to them. So, I'm going to give them this extra babka and white bread. But what they ordered was 2 rye. Sadly had to be changed to brown because I don't have rye flour right now. Can't get it. Banana bread, apple cages, and lemon circles. Everything turned out good that they paid for. And the bonus is the only thing that turned out bad was the white bread, which isn't the end of the world. Now this is how they turned out. Looking pretty good. The Serb crew was really impressed with the babka and all the goodies they got. They're really enjoying that idea about the caramel, and they're really looking forward to getting a taste test of that, so I'll have to be doing that fairly soon. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.